Have you ever noticed how one simple name, Karen, somehow became one of the most recognizable labels on the internet? It's not just a name anymore, it's a personality, a stereotype, a punchline. Say Karen, and most people instantly picture the same thing. Someone demanding to speak to the manager. Someone entitled, impatient, maybe even confrontational over the smallest inconvenience. But here's the strange part. Karen is a perfectly normal name. Thousands of people around the world are named Karen, and most of them have absolutely nothing to do with the stereotype. So, who is Karen? How did this happen? How did a common first name turn into a global symbol of bad behavior? To understand that, we have to go back, not just a few years, but decades. Let's get into it, right here, on History of Simple Things. Before it became internet slang, Karen was just a name. It was especially popular in English-speaking countries during the 1950s and 1960s. At the time, it carried no negative meaning at all. In fact, it was associated with everyday people, neighbors, teachers, co-workers. If anything, Karen was seen as a friendly, familiar name. Ordinary, harmless. But like many cultural shifts, the change didn't happen overnight. It slowly evolved through pop culture, comedy, and eventually the internet. Long before social media, comedians were already building characters that resembled what we now call a Karen. These characters were often portrayed as overly demanding, difficult to please, or socially oblivious. They weren't always called Karen, but the personality was there. Then came the rise of internet forums and early social platforms in the 2000s. People began sharing stories about frustrating encounters, rude customers, entitled strangers, or people who overreacted in public. Over time, these stories started to follow a pattern, and eventually they needed a name. By the 2010, online communities began using Karen as a kind of shorthand. Instead of explaining a long story about someone being unreasonable or entitled, people could just say, "She was being such a Karen." The name stuck because it felt oddly specific, but still general enough to apply to many situations. Memes began to appear. Images, jokes, and videos exaggerated the stereotype. A middle-aged woman with a certain haircut, a certain tone of voice, and a certain tendency to escalate minor issues. One phrase in particular became iconic. "I want to speak to the manager." It captured the essence of the stereotype perfectly. Someone who believes they deserve special treatment no matter the situation. The turning point came when the internet moved beyond jokes and into real-life footage. With smartphones everywhere, people began recording public confrontations, arguments in stores, disputes in parks, conflicts in neighborhoods. When someone behaved in a way that matched the stereotype, the label Karen was quickly applied. These videos spread fast. Suddenly, Karen wasn't just a meme anymore, it felt real. And because these clips often showed extreme behavior, they reinforced the stereotype even more. Each viral video added another layer to the definition. Over time, the term became widely understood, even by people who weren't deeply involved in internet culture. So why the name Karen? Why not something else? Part of it comes down to timing and familiarity. Karen was a common name for a particular generation, which made it relatable and recognizable. It also had a certain neutrality. Before the meme, it didn't carry strong associations, making it easier to redefine. Another factor is how language works online. The internet loves simplicity. It prefers quick, catchy labels that are easy to remember and share. Karen fit perfectly. It was short, easy to say, and instantly recognizable once the stereotype took hold. Today, calling someone a Karen usually implies a mix of behaviors: a sense of entitlement, believing rules don't apply to them, a tendency to complain or escalate situations unnecessarily, a lack of awareness about how their actions affect others. But it's important to understand that the term has evolved, and not always in a good way. At first, it described specific behaviors, but over time it started being used more loosely, sometimes too loosely. As the term became more popular, it also became more controversial. Some people argue that it's harmless, a way to call out rude or entitled behavior. Others believe it's unfair, especially to people who are actually named Karen. Imagine having your name turned into a global joke overnight. There's also concern that the label can be overused or misused. Not every complaint is unreasonable. Not every frustrated customer is a Karen. In some cases, the term can shut down valid concerns by dismissing them too quickly, so while it started as a way to highlight bad behavior, it can sometimes blur the line between criticism and mockery. In many ways, the rise of Karen reflects the culture we live in today, a culture where moments are recorded instantly, where behavior is judged publicly, where a single interaction can go viral and define someone's identity. It also reflects growing conversations about respect, accountability, and how people treat one another in public spaces. The Karen label became popular because it tapped into shared frustrations, those moments when someone's behavior feels unfair or unreasonable. But it also shows how easily those frustrations can turn into stereotypes. At the end of the day, Karen is more than just a meme. It's a reminder of how powerful language can be. A simple name, once ordinary and unremarkable, was transformed into a global symbol of a specific kind of behavior. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.